Nick, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Shauna Kelly.
Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself.
Coach Willis, I just wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself.
Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself and say I look forward to seeing you at practice.
Oh, good to meet you.
I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that my husband and I are huge fans of BBC America. We
wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself to you.
Nick, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Shauna Kelly.
Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself.
Coach Willis, I just wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself.
Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself and say I look forward to seeing you at practice.
Oh, good to meet you.
I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that my husband and I are huge fans of BBC America. We
wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself to you.
Nick, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Shauna Kelly.
Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself.
Coach Willis, I just wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself.
Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself and say I look forward to seeing you at practice.
Oh, good to meet you.
I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that my husband and I are huge fans of BBC America. We
wanted to introduce myself.
I just wanted to introduce myself to you.
Nick.
Have you met everyone?
Have you met this guy in person yet?
Have you met General Shang? Have you met him? Has he been around the house?
Robert, have you met Frederick Douglass?
Have you met any of his friends yet? Are they nice?
Have you met Pearl?
Yes.
I'm not discussing that.
Have you met someone?
Have you met Father Flynn?
Have you met Daniel?
Have you met anyone else?
Have you met Bobby before?
Have you met Mr. Lyle? He's in sugar.
Have you met anyone yet?
Have you met someone?
Excellent. Have you met my mum?
Have you met them?
Yeah. Have you met any new people? Friends?
What about women? Have you met anyone you like?
Wow.
Have you met my nephew? His name is Jesus.
Have you met her?
Have you met anyone to ask yet?
The copyright of its catalog, likewise, I leave in its entirety to Marta Cabrera.
The colour was fine, likewise the design, but the aroma, ooh, that was a failure.
Go and do likewise, gents.
You better go do likewise.
I likewise taught him to say master and let him know that was to be my name.
Likewise.
Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Pleased to meet you.
Likewise.
Pleased to meet you.
Likewise.
That a woman conceived me, I give her thanks. That she brought me up, I likewise give her most humble thanks.
Dad?
Oh, likewise.
Absolutely, and likewise.
Likewise.
Helen Talbot. Likewise.
Likewise. You alone?
Oh, yes, likewise.
Pleasure to meet you. I heard a lot about you. Likewise.
Likewise. All will become nothing.
Weird meeting you.
Likewise.
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 It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Merry Christmas, Georgia.
Christmas, ma'am.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, Mar.
I'm Ripley. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Angela. Honey.
Hey, Alex. I'm Flor. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
Well, nice to meet you, Hollywood.
Well, it's nice to meet you, too. I'm Betty. Thank you. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Temple Grandin.
Nice to meet you, too.
Nice to meet you.
Come.
My name's Walter, too, but everybody calls me Walt.
Nice to meet
Shirley.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
How very nice to meet you, Constable.
It's very nice to meet you, Theodore. Very nice to meet you, Theodore.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, too.
I'd like you to meet my son, Harold.
I'd like you to meet my assistants, Inga and Igor.
I'd like you to meet some of our instructors.
What? I'd like you to meet Alan Shepard.
Governor, as per your instructions, I'd like you to meet the new sheriff of Rock Ridge.
Now, I'd like you to meet some friends.
And gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Lieutenant Zachary Gobler of our own New York Transit Authority Police.
Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Miss Gina Inviere.
Aaron, I'd like you to meet my wife, Ash.
Terry,
I'd like you to meet Shoeless Joe Jackson.
I'd like you to meet a friend of mine, Bob Stripling.
Howard Prince. I'd like you to meet Steve Parks, who plays the lead in the show.
I'd like you to meet Charles Robb.
I'd like you to meet a new friend of mine.
Ah, Logan. I'd like you to meet Aurora Monroe, also called Storm.
Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet my former partner, Samuel D. Bowen.
Hi. I'd like you to meet my mother.
I'd like you to meet my son, David.
I'd like you to meet a friend of mine.
Charles, I'd like you to meet Hamish, my fiancé.
I'd like you to meet Gordon.
Everybody, I'd like you to meet my boyfriend, Jake.
Louis, Diane, there's someone I'd like you to meet.
I'd like you to meet him.
Kim Gordon. I'd like you to meet our new tight end.
I'd like to introduce you to Charlene, who's my secretary, my friend, my accountant, and her daughter, Renee, who's also my friend.
Tamara, Cheryl, I'd like to introduce you to your co-worker, Annie Hinckley.
Tonight, I'd like to introduce you to a couple of old friends.
I'd like to introduce you to someone. Do you mind?
And now, I'd like to introduce you to our first lucky resident.
I'd like to introduce you to somebody.
I'd like to introduce you to my son, James.
Right here on my right, I have a young man named Steve Peters, and I'd like to introduce you to Steve.
I'd like to introduce you to our very top salesman, my idol, Mr. Sam Sharp.
Oh, I'd like to introduce you to some of my chums. Come on.
Now, I'd like to introduce you to someone very special, Miss Priscilla Taylor.
Oh, I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Emily.
Mello, I'd like to introduce you to my girlfriend, Alessandra.
I'd like to introduce you to my attorney.
I'd like to introduce you to your new brother, Gabriel.
You may all know me as Greg Brady, but tonight, I'd like to introduce you to Johnny Bravo.
I'd like to introduce you to the iPod.
I'd like to introduce you to our new English teacher, Miss Dickinson.
I'd like to introduce you to my young friend, Colonel Whiskey.
Ladies, I'd like to introduce you to Giles.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to introduce you to your new classmate.
I'd like to introduce you to Eddie Edwards, sometimes known as Eddie the Eagle.
Gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the newest member of our team.
I'd like to introduce you to Jeremy Goober with the Attorney General's office.
Gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Young.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, too.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm fine. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Wow, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Prote. I'm Dr. Becker.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Vice President.
It's a pleasure to meet you. You as well.
What I meant was, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Bunty.
Hi, Frank. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Patrick.
Same here.
That's precious. It's a pleasure to meet you, too.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. White.
Hi, how are you?
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Angus.
It's a pleasure to meet you, James.